You guys ever see an esports pro and go, you should not be playing a video game right now, pal. You should be on the beaches of Miami bench pressing 4 to 5 women. You should be out in a bar fight right now. What are you doing playing Counter-Strike, pal? You should be the star in the newest season of Love Island. What are we doing? I think there is something very magical about seeing someone who is playing video games and just thinking that they shouldn't be doing that. They're too chatted up to be doing that. I think the funniest example of this is a couple years ago when we had the Complexity Colossus and we had that picture of Blame F next to Oboe. Because it's just like, Oboe is more of a build that you would think a, you know, Counter-Strike pro would have. And then you just have this fucking giant standing next to him. Like, oh my goodness. And you know, as a gym goer myself, if you couldn't tell, here's the most recent physique photo for you. I feel like, I don't know, I just appreciate these players so much. Any Counter-Strike pro that I see that is semi-jacked, I'm gonna go out of my way to support them. It's just how it is. So I thought today I would go through a bunch of different jacked Counter-Strike pros and even one other esports pro that I wanted to shout out in this video, just because I think they do deserve some respect, man. Now, before we get into players who are like super jacked, I want to get into the first category, and I'm gonna call them pretty boys who are somewhat jacked. Pretty boys who are somewhat jacked. Yeah, this video is gonna be pretty homosexual, I would say. And the 4 players I want to talk about here is Prime Device, Prime Scream, Prime Shox, and Nico pretty much at any point after Mouse. I feel like everyone knows Device. I think he is without a doubt a top 3 AWPer in Counter-Strike history. He played a little bit in 1.6, and then in CSGO he attended the first major DreamHack Winter 2013 with Copenhagen Wolves. I think Device has been at every single major in CSGO history, and that was all with the Astralis core of players, which was Device, Xyp9x, and Dupree. They were together throughout like all of CSGO. But what I mainly want to talk about is Device's time on TSM, because back in 2015, this dude was... Let me just say, I'm a straight male. I love my girlfriend, okay? But Device in 2015. Holy fucking shit, bro. Oh my god. Now, he isn't necessarily like this jacked ass dude. He was definitely fit. But he quite literally looked like a Tom Cruise. I don't even want to say a budget Tom Cruise. Okay, he didn't look better than prime Tom Cruise, but he was damn close, okay? Look at the jawline, bro. Look at the cheekbones. Bro, what is this video even gonna be, man? Am I just gonna be gobbling on it, sucking on it the whole fucking video for everyone I talk about? I guess.
Hello guys, it's me, Garmour. The first time you've ever seen me in person before. If you guys would like to support me or the stuff that I do here, check out the new long-term sponsor of the Garmour YouTube channel, SkinSwap. SkinSwap is the #1 place to trade your Rust or Counter-Strike skins for new ones where you can instantly upgrade your inventory. And if you use my code Garmour, you can get up to $50 on a free skin and a 3% lifetime selling bonus. And now you can easily buy skins off of the Chinese marketplace for cheaper prices than you ever could on the Western marketplaces. I truly think this is the best feature on any skin trading website, but if you are looking to sell, you can sell your skins for crypto, PayPal, Venmo, and a bunch of other withdrawal methods. Along with this, SkinSwap has a vault system now, which makes it the most rewarding skin trading website. And of course, don't forget the giveaways. And I think that's it. Thank you to them, thank you to you guys, and back to the video.
I want to group Scream and Shox in a kind of the same category because I feel like Prime Scream and Prime Shox both give me like similar vibes. And while Scream isn't French like Shox is, they were both kind of in the French teams during the time. I don't know, I think I just remember when I first started watching Counter-Strike, I looked at Shox, I looked at Scream, and I was like, hey, listen, these are some attractive men, okay? Shox was definitely the more like, I guess, emo, kind of. He kind of had like a more emo look, but it wasn't like overdone. And they were also 2 of the best riflers in the entire world. From 2013 to 2016, Shox was one of the best players in the world, and he was looking good while he was doing it. Scream definitely wasn't as good, but he was iconic for the one-taps, placing top 10 twice, once in 2013 and once in 2016. But I do gotta say, while all of these players have had their primes, I would say Nico has been an attractive man for a straight decade at this point. And it's not to say these other 3 players aren't attractive anymore, but guys, look at this recent Instagram picture of Nico. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to stalk a brother. I saw this posted on Twitter. Nico's got kind of a sleeper build, bro. I didn't know Buddy was built like this in the big 2026. He did look like he was cutting down a little bit. He looked like he had lost a little bit of weight, but I didn't know he was this locked in. And I mean, Nico is fairly built. I wouldn't say he's like chatted up, like ripped. Well, I mean, he's ripped. I guess just like built as fuck. I don't know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean, I feel like. Like a Blame F, Pasha Biceps, right? I feel like he's not like that level. Guys, Nico's been a top tier rifler for years and years and years. And listen, was he a little chubby in mouse? Yes. I was also chubby a couple years ago. What can you do? It's a part of life, okay? You have to go through that. It's a learning experience. But I feel like Nico, along with being one of the best players in Counter-Strike history, has always had this suave look to him. It doesn't matter that he's not a Blame F, Pasha Biceps type of build, because he just has this money style to him. He's a very elegant man, I feel like. The hair, the look, just everything. Am I gay for Nico? Now, getting into players who I would say are actually pretty fucking jacked. First, I would like to talk about Fur. Now, Fur, during his time playing for Prime Luminosity and SK, I wouldn't say was like this really huge dude. Was he damn good at Counter-Strike? Yeah, I would say so. But what I do want to talk about is after MIBR kind of fell apart and the old Luminosity SK core that we knew and loved kind of looked like they were reaching their end, Fur disappeared into tier 2 for a while. And then magically in 2022, Imperial picks up the Last Dance roster, which was basically just a nostalgia trip. It had Bolts, FNX, Fur, and Fallen. Guys, the fucking pictures of Fur when he joined Imperial, oh my god, this dude was ripped. I mean, he was fucking yoked. He kind of looks like a completely different person in a way. Just like looking at his face, which is typically a sign of, I'm not gonna say anything, because it's not like, I don't think the physique he has is unachievable. He's not like incredibly unrealistically jacked, but when certain features on your face changes, other things change, it is typically a sign of some type of enhancements. But like I said, he isn't unrealistically jacked, so it's not like what he had was unattainable. But dude, he was flexing in some of his photos on Imperial, and oh my god. And I guess looking at older pictures of Fur, he was always somewhat jacked. When he went on Imperial, he was looking like a different type of man. The next player that I'm going to talk about is Freakazoid, and I honestly feel like for how short of a time Freakazoid was in tier 1, I feel like he is so unbelievably well known. And well, this is for a couple reasons. Cloud9, fan favorite team during the time for a lot of people. After he joined Cloud9 in 2015, shortly after, Cloud9 kind of went on their diabolical summer run where they made 3 finals of S tier tournaments in a row, looking like one of the best iterations of Cloud9 we had seen up to that point. And they had even made the semis of an S tier tournament after those 3 finals. They were hot during this time. And along with this, partially because of Freakazoid and partially because this success came during the summer, we had Cloud9 tank top summer. We had the tank top summer boys for Cloud9. Whole team was wearing tank tops. Whole team was frying everyone. This was honestly a legendary time to be a Cloud9 fan and a North American fan, despite them not winning anything. They then followed this up by, of course, not making the playoffs of Cologne, because that's just what NA does, baby. Freakazoid also bullied Simple. That's maybe also why he is so well known. And well, Freakazoid was only on Cloud9 for about a year, and after this, he never really returned to tier 1. But along with all of those reasons I already listed, Freakazoid is also very well remembered because of just how unfathomably jacked and handsome he was. He was a good-looking dude. What can I say? I'm pretty sure he is the reason that the Cloud9 tank top summer thing even started, because he was just so jacked. Why wouldn't he wear a tank top? And I mean, it is kind of sad he never actually ended up working in tier 1. But hey, man, what can you do? Along with Freakazoid, we have someone who is still playing and is very, very popular right now because of what he has done with Big, and that is Blame F. I'm not going to go too super in-depth with Blame F because I made an entire video about him a couple weeks ago. But yeah, Blame F jacked, goated. Once again, I'll bring up the picture of him and Oboe is legendary. And honestly, that entire Complexity team included quite a few Chads that I could talk about. I feel like Rush is a big sleeper because Rush, towards the end of his career, literally became a fucking gorilla. This dude was ginormous. Config as well, who got in a bar fight at one point. You know, that Complexity Colossus was a good-looking team of fellas. That is what I will say. But yeah, Blame F, while as of today, he might not be as big as he once was, I'd say he's without a doubt still a tank. And I think he actually was pursuing bodybuilding and competitive CS at the same time, but that is just like kind of an unfathomable combo. With how much time you have to put into both of those things, I'm sure he quite literally could not do anything else. So I do think he has given up bodybuilding, and that is a part of the reason why he is a little bit smaller now, but even still, he he's a fucking animal. The next player I want to talk about is without a doubt one of the biggest chads in Counter-Strike history, and that is Pasha Biceps. He is beloved by everyone, and I mean, look at his goddamn name. He's got biceps in his name. Pasha started his competitive career very early on in 2004, and eventually linked up with two Polish legends of Neo and Taz. He ended up winning a couple 1.6 majors with them, and then of course Katowice 2014 in CSGO. During this time being one of the best hybrid operators in the entire world, peaking at number 3 in the world in 2014, and of course being the MVP of that major they won in 2014. And I think the thing with Pasha is he's not just a jacked Counter-Strike player that a lot of people adored. A part of the reason people did adore him is like his overly incredibly friendly personality. He was extremely charismatic, and he was just like Counter-Strike's sweetheart because he was just this huge giant behemoth of a man, but he's like the sweetest motherfucker you would ever meet, the sweetest motherfucker you'd ever talk to.
We are from Poland, you are from Hungary, you are not my friends, you're my brothers, my friend.
And I mean, ever since Pasha retired in 2019, he's still been a fairly consistent figure in the Counter-Strike space, streaming, going to events, and fitness is still a huge part of his brand. I think when he goes to a lot of these big events, especially majors, he rides his bike all the way there. Yeah, in 2024, he completed around a 1,000-kilometer ride to the Copenhagen Major, after already doing an 1,800-kilometer trip to the Paris Major in 2023. I mean, he is just an absolute freak when it comes to fitness, and there is zero chance that the Counter-Strike scene ever forgets him. But before we get into maybe the biggest chad that I have ever heard of in Counter-Strike history, I want to shout out someone who doesn't play Counter-Strike, a StarCraft 2 pro named Impact. Now, let me be honest, guys. I don't know a ton about StarCraft 2, and it seems like he was a pretty good player in the scene, but what he is mostly known for is one of the most absolutely absurd body transformations that I have ever seen. You have StarCraft 2, Impact, but then after having to do his mandatory military service, he comes back and looks like this. Now we get to maybe the biggest chad that I have literally ever seen, and his name is XeqtR. I mean, listen to that name, bro. You may have first seen a picture of this guy when HLTV posted their Hall of Fame candidates, and everyone's first reaction when they saw him was, holy shit, this is the most chatted up, attractive man that I've ever seen. And let me tell you what, fellas, he's got a personality to match it. XeqtR was born on November 16th in 1982 in Norway to South Korean parents before he was adopted by a Norwegian family at the age of 6. He grew up playing video games before discovering Counter-Strike in 2000, and after impressing on Spirit of Amiga, he was picked up by one of the best 1.6 teams in Counter-Strike history, NIP. And with NIP in 2001, they would win 2 S-tier tournaments, and were looking like maybe the best team in the entire world. But unfortunately for XeqtR and NIP, there would be internal drama within the team, which would go on to be a recurring theme for XeqtR, and he would get kicked right before the game's first major CPL winner 2001. So after leaving the best team in Sweden, he would instead join the second best team in Sweden, MTW. Shortly after, he would come in third place with MTW, and IP would bring him back, but because of a sponsor drought, the team would crumble shortly after, and so he would stand in for a team called Nordic Division at CPL Cologne 2002, an S-tier tournament where XeqtR and the team would win. Despite only being a stand-in for the team, XeqtR during this time was described as a one-man army, and he would eventually reunite with some of the old NIP players, Keaton and Potty on SK Gaming, winning the game's second major CPL summer 2002. But then, of course, just like last time, internal conflicts would strike again and he would be dropped. This is when XeqtR had finally had enough. He was no longer going to allow himself to be kicked from teams, and so he would join the best Norwegian team in the world, Eolithic, and take over as the team's captain in IGL. This is when him and another one of the team's players, Element, would become one of the best duos in the entire game, kind of dominating in their region, but falling out in 8th place at CPL winner 2002. Shortly after this, the team would disband, partially due to sponsor issues, and partially due to Element leaving the team to join SK, and so XeqtR would go on to join Team 9, where they would win Esports World Cup 2003, the game's 5th major. Similar to all of his other teams though, this team would also crumble, and in late 2004, he would be picked up by NOA to be their 5th. NOA was an incredibly strange team, because during this time in 1.6, nearly every single team was at least 4 people from the same country. International teams really really didn't exist. But NOA was one of the first kind of international teams. They were still mainly Norwegian, and XeqtR would be paired back up with Element, but there would also be a Canadian and an American on the roster, Jaguar and Method. This team then went on to have one of the best 1.6 major runs in history at CPL Winter 2004, winning 6 games in a row through the lower bracket to beat Eyeballers in the final. And at this point, with 3 major titles under his belt with 3 different teams, XeqtR was looking like one of the best players in 1.6 history. Then eventually, by mid-2006, at age 23, XeqtR would retire, saying that he felt the new generation was passing him by and lacking the network for another super team. And while you might say, yeah, he's a Chad for winning 3 majors, that isn't even close to his entire story. A couple years ago, Thorn and XeqtR had a podcast together, and listening to this, it really shows how much of a Chad this guy was. Earlier on, you might have been wondering what a lot of the internal issues were. You know, when he was getting kicked from all of these teams. Well, sometimes it was his decision, and other times it was still kind of his decision. From this podcast, you can kind of gain that he was a very, very ruthless competitor. Sometimes if his teams had poor results, literally just being in 3rd place, he would just leave the team to try and find a better one. He didn't care. If he wasn't consistently winning every single tournament, his team just wasn't good enough.
I even remember the lower bracket final against X3.
Yeah.
The Americans. And
Yep.
then on train.
Yes.
And I was wrecking people left and right. But I mean, we didn't get many rounds. I think we lost. It was quite kind of close, but I felt like I won that game. And I remember Keshav coming back up to me after the game saying, yeah, nice AVP or something he said. But and I was just like, yeah, whatever. My team,
That's pretty good.
My team was so bad, and I lost the game. And so I already made up my mind after,
Right.
like, directly after the game, that I couldn't play with these
Yes.
guys. That was just my career. I was very ruthless back then.
Yes.
But also, as you said, I created a lot of drama. You know.
Sure.
So it was never like longevity in the way I was thinking.
Yes.
It was just like, if I don't win, I will find somebody I can win with. Trying to make a team that will last, loyalty, and you have your ups and downs. You have to go through them together. Blah blah blah. For me, it was never like that. It was just like, I want to win all the time, and if I don't win, then goodbye.
Also, during this time and living in Norway, he also had an incredibly bad setup. Outside of major cities in Norway, they had very limited internet access. And early on when he was playing, he was pretty much just stuck on dial-up, and even mentioned playing on a phone connection sometimes while practicing with his Danish and Swedish teams, because a lot of the times when he was playing, he was in Swedish teams just because Norwegian teams weren't good enough for him at the time, which means anytime he played, he just kind of had horrible ping. And unlike a lot of pros during that time, he didn't have like a super high-end PC. He just kind of used whatever computer he had at home. And in the podcast, talks about time periods where his setup and ping was so bad that his motivation just wasn't there anymore. And so a lot of the times he just wouldn't play for weeks or months.
But that's the funny thing. That the reason why I got kicked out of Nick the first time was because I was just not online for like 2 months.
They just never saw you on the internet.
They didn't see me because I didn't
Okay.
really have
That's a pretty fair reason to kick you, to be fair. Like,
yeah.
But despite him being on a pretty bad setup and always having high ping, the beautiful thing about CS is it's not only about aim. And due to this pretty rough setup, XeqtR was very reliant on team communication and tactics rather than perfect aim or mechanics. So because of him being so good at the team play element of the game and the teamwork element and training with this bad setup, when this dude got to LAN, he was one of the greatest LAN risers during the early part of 1.6. He was a monster on LAN. You can also tell from him talking that he was extremely confident in his ability.
So yeah, I was pretty clutch back then, and I think I was a very confident player. The confidence level was like just overconfident, I would say it sometimes, but it helped me a lot in those pressure situations because I was just like, I'm right, he's wrong, I will win this.
And when he eventually transitioned into a captain and caller, it was kind of natural for him. He's a leader by nature, and early on was actually praised as one of the smartest and most tactically adept players of the 1.6 era. And on teams like Eolithic and NOA, when he was the captain, one of the #1 things that he would try and drill into his team was completely basic executes. He would make his team practice the same exact basic A execute for hours and hours on end until it was quite literally perfect. And with the help of his teammate Element, who would often often feed XeqtR information. It seemed like he was always reading the mind of the enemy team and doing really, really good mid rounds. And a lot of times from what I could see, he was a pure impact fragger. He would go in an entry for his team with his incredibly high sense if he needed to. If you need him to clutch, he can clutch, op, IGL. He literally did everything. But unfortunately, it does get to a point he was kind of like Lightning McQueen from Cars, where he felt that the newer talents were kind of passing him by.
But that was back in the day when I think the skill gap also was quite big, to be honest. But when everybody else got good, I was more like a team player and an in-game leader, and there were a lot of players that were better than me before I quit. I can say that for sure.
And well, after retiring, he ended up getting a master's degree in industrial economics and still sometimes casually plays Counter-Strike with some of his friends. Anyways, that's it for me today, Squadron. Liking the video if you liked, subscribbling if you want to subscribble, turn on notifications if you want to be notified, and I will see you guys next time.